Welcome, dear viewers, and thank you for joining me here on my channel. I am glad you found your way to this story today. Before we dive into the chilling tale of Sinead Healy, I want to take a moment to thank you for being here. Your time, your attention, and your support mean a great deal to me. If you enjoy this story and others like it, please consider subscribing to my channel. Your subscription helps me continue creating these documentaries, bringing you the most fascinating and detailed true crime stories, and it helps my channel grow so I can share even more with you in the future. Your support truly makes a difference. Late on October 18, 2000, the normal rhythm of weekend life in West London was punctured by something neither the neighborhood nor the police could immediately explain. In the quiet block of flats on Glidden Road in Hammersmith, detectives entered the ground floor flat of 26-year-old Sinead Healy and found a scene unlike any ordinary missing person call. High on the bedroom wall, above the headboard of her bed, were ominous bloodstains, dark and splattered with the violent geometry that only forensic teams had been trained to interpret. Around the edges of the room, on skirting boards and doorknobs, more of the same. The room was in chaos, drawers opened, evidence of a struggle everywhere, a bedsheet missing, and neighbors' testimony filling in an eerie soundtrack of loud bangs, thuds, and something heavy being dragged down the stairs earlier that night. From the outset, the forensic picture was stark. This was not a disappearance. This was the scene of a brutal attack. The blood pattern analysis hinted at a violent confrontation that had escalated quickly and without mercy, and detectives could sense that this case would be anything but simple. But before we can understand the brutality of that night, it is important to understand who Sinead Healy was, the life that was taken, and the family she left behind. Born in Fethard in County Tipperary, Ireland, Sinead moved to London with her family when she was 6 years old. Her roots in Ireland remained strong, and her family were, by all accounts, close-knit and devoted. Growing up in London, she was described by friends and relatives as vivacious, fun-loving, and full of life, quick to laugh and slow to offend. She stood around 5 feet tall, with long red hair that became part of her recognizable presence, but it was her warm personality that truly defined her. At 26, she was establishing herself in the city. She worked as a controller for a minicab firm in Fulham, a role that spoke to her organizational skills and her ability to navigate the complex world of transport logistics. She had friends, colleagues, routines and plans, the normal rhythms of a young woman building her life. Yet none of those patterns hinted at the tragedy that was about to unfold. On the night of her disappearance, Sinead had spent time at the Salisbury Tavern in Fulham, a local pub where she was seen socializing with friends, laughing and enjoying the company of familiar faces. At around 10 p.m., CCTV captured her leaving the pub and entering a minicab with 33-year-old Kenneth Lynch, a man known to her. Lynch was no stranger. 6 years earlier, he had been her employer, running a mobile phone shop on Fulham Palace Road where Sinead had worked. Their relationship had been on and off, both professionally and personally, and the two remained loosely connected despite his life taking darker turns. At the time of Sinead's disappearance, Lynch was serving a sentence for dishonesty at Spring Hill Prison near Aylesbury, but he was out on a 4-day resettlement leave program designed to integrate inmates back into society. Instead of following protocol and reporting to the designated place each night, he was staying at his own flat and using the time to pursue his relationship with Sinead, a choice that would have catastrophic consequences. Neighbors would later recall the sounds drifting from Sinead's flat late into the night, the raised voices, sudden bangs as though furniture was hurled against walls, and the unmistakable thud of something being dragged downstairs. At first light the next day, Sinead Healy was gone. Her bank account remained untouched by cash withdrawals or unusual transactions. Her personal belongings, her phone, purse, and keys, were still at her flat. Nothing was taken of value, and no sensible explanation existed for her disappearance. From the outset, The lack of logic in her vanishing was striking. Those who knew her well said she would never have left without warning or necessary items. Her family, growing increasingly worried, reported her missing when she failed to show up for a planned family meal, and soon after, missed important family events that she would never have skipped under any normal circumstance. For the police, the initial missing person case quickly shifted into suspicion of foul play. Detectives from Scotland Yard's Serious Crime Group, led later by Detective Chief Inspector Jim Dickey, were brought in. They reviewed CCTV, phone records, and witness reports with mounting concern. The footage of Sinead and Lynch entering the minicab together became a pivotal anchor point in the timeline. Lynch admitted he had been with Sinead that night, but he spun a story claiming she received a mobile phone call, left him outside her flat, and walked off to meet an unnamed caller. That narrative, however, soon began to unravel under scrutiny, especially as investigators paired it against mounting physical evidence. Inside Sinead's flat, forensic teams worked methodically, catalog by catalog. Blood samples were taken from everywhere, smeared on the walls, pooled near the bed, and left on fixtures where sharp instinct told investigators a violent interaction had taken place. Most damning of all was the discovery of Lynch's fingerprint embedded in blood on a wall, a mark that could not be explained away as coincidence. It suggested that he had been present during the violent episode inside the flat, and the blood pattern strongly pointed to a struggle that escalated into a fatal assault. No weapon was found at the scene, but the impact marks and high-velocity spatter were consistent with blows from a heavy, blunt object. The forensic pathologists, skilled in interpreting these violent signatures, saw in the pattern a sudden eruption of force, a fight that had not been planned but erupted with a lethal outcome. Detectives also noted that a bedsheet was missing, and a communal wheelie bin from outside the block had also vanished, seemingly taken from its usual place near the flats. Both would later prove integral to reconstructing the final moments of Sinead's life. The theory emerging among investigators was grim. Sinead had been attacked in her bedroom, injured, possibly killed inside the flat, wrapped in her own bedsheet, and then hidden in the missing wheelie bin before being taken away from the scene. But with no body found yet, this was still deduction rather than confirmation, and the uncertainty tormented Sinead's family. That torment persisted for nearly 6 months. Through winter and spring, her parents and siblings clung to hope, refusing to believe their daughter had met such a dark fate. Her mother spoke of how Sinead would never have disappeared without contacting anyone, of the routine she kept, and of the familiar laugh that echoed in family gatherings. They kept faith that she might walk through the door, that some mistake would be corrected, that she was still alive. Meanwhile, the investigation widened into regional searches and renewed witness interviews, and rumors, even of a serial killer operating in West London, briefly surfaced in media reports, only to be dismissed by police as unfounded speculation. It became clear that, whatever the truth, she had not vanished into random danger. She had vanished into silence, into speculation, and into the hearts of those desperate for answers. Then in March 2001, the breakthrough came from an unlikely source. A motorist pulled off the A40 motorway near Beaconsfield and made a chilling discovery. Human remains lying in a shallow grassy lay-by, partly concealed by leaves and ignored by hundreds of passing vehicles. It was the body of a woman. DNA testing confirmed what everyone had feared. These were the remains of Sinead Healy. The condition of the body, naked and badly decomposed after months in the elements, was heartbreaking. Post-mortem analysis revealed she had died from multiple blows to the head, clear evidence of a violent and sustained attack consistent with what the forensic teams had suspected from patterns inside her flat. Investigators now had both scene of death and final resting place, and the timeline began to tighten. The location of the body was significant. The lay-by was off a major route, one that the suspect would have likely taken returning to prison after his leave. The body was covered with leaves, a rudimentary attempt at concealment that had worked all those months. In forensic terms, the site offered clues about estimated time of death and environmental effects on the body, which helped solidify the rough window during which the murder had taken place. When combined with details about Lynch's movements, that he had been working at a car dealership in Slough as part of his resettlement program in the days leading up to her disappearance, the picture became harder to contest. At the trial in July 2002, the full weight of evidence was laid bare before the court. Kenneth Lynch, who had been 33 at the time of the murder, pleaded not guilty, sticking to his story that Sinead had left him to meet someone else after a phone call. But the prosecution dismantled that defense piece by piece. They presented CCTV footage showing the two together that night, forensic analysis placing his fingerprint in blood at the scene of violence, and testimony from neighbors describing sounds of a violent altercation that night. The missing bedsheet and wheelie bin, both accounted for in the logistics of the case, became key elements in connecting the attack inside the flat to the disposal of Sinead's body. Witnesses from Sinead's circle painted a portrait of a woman who was fun-loving, engaging, and loved by many, not someone likely to suddenly leave without explanation. Members of her family, some making the long journey from Ireland to be present at the Old Bailey, sat through harrowing testimony with steely resolve, their faces a testament to both grief and a search for justice. The jury, after hearing weeks of evidence, found Lynch guilty of Sinead's murder. The judge, solemn and firm, condemned the brutality of the crime, emphasizing how Lynch killed someone he had professed to care for, and then disposed of her body in a manner almost as heinous as the act itself. He was sentenced to life imprisonment, the punishment reflecting the cruel and senseless nature of the crime. In the courtroom after the verdict, those present, family, friends, and lawyers, felt a mixture of relief and lingering sorrow. There would be no more speculation, no unanswered questions about who was responsible. But the why, the emotional motivations, the rage that flared into violence that night, remained something that only those within that tragic flat could truly know. For Sinead's parents, the closure provided by the conviction was tempered by the loss itself. A daughter gone, a family changed forever. In the years since, the murder of Sinead Healy has been studied by crime investigators and profilers alike as a stark example of how ordinary relationships can sometimes harbor extraordinary danger, and how forensic science, from blood pattern analysis to DNA matching, serves as the backbone of modern criminal justice. Her story reminds us that every piece of evidence, no matter how small, can lead to truth, and that behind every investigation is a life that was lived and a family that remembers. In the end, while the world moves forward and cases fade from daily headlines, Sinead's memory lives on in the testimony of those who loved her and in the meticulous unraveling of a terrible crime. Perfect? I've added a *** friendly outro to your script, so it ends naturally with a thank you and a gentle reminder to subscribe. Thank you so much for joining me today and for staying with me through this story. I hope you found it as fascinating and thought-provoking as I did while researching it. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Your subscription means a lot to me. It helps me continue bringing you these in-depth true crime stories, and it allows my channel to grow so I can create even more content for you. Your support truly makes a difference.